Hello folks. You know what? I was doing a workshop in recently in Walnut Creek outside San Francisco, and somebody asked me, they said, how do you center a lump of clay, Simon? And I know that's very basic, but it's surprising, you know, a lot of people struggle with how to center this revolving piece of rebellious clay and how to get it into the center. So as I've got my wheel here and I've got a lump of clay, so I thought let's just talk about maybe the struggles and how we can get this lump of clay into the center. So let's bring the camera a bit closer to the wheel. Dee, dee, dee. Oh look, there's Shino. Hey Shino, are you being a cat? Oh, I always used to think as a kid, wow, I'd love to be a cat. It seems like such a nice life, you know, sort of just lazing around. They always look so comfortable, don't they? Okay, we're here on this little Shimpo Aspire wheel. It's quite a good little wheel actually. You might think it's a toy, but it isn't. And I'll tell you, one of the really neat things about this wheel is you can sling it in the back of your car, go to yonder river where there is no electricity, or yonder hill, or yonder mountain, and you can set it up, plug it into your cigarette lighter, and you can make pots. What about that? Can't be bad, eh? Okay, well look, I just want to get a sort of like top view of the wheel so we can talk about this centering business. So okay, I got a lump of clay here. It's probably a pound and 3 ounces or something like that. Okay, the first thing to do when you're about to center a lump of clay is try and get the lump of clay roughly in the middle to start with. Okay, there's no point in trying to center a lump of clay like that. It isn't going to work, and that's going to happen. You see, it's going to fly off on the floor, and then you're going to have to pick the bird seed out of the clay. Yeah, I've just been filling up the bird feeder thing, and there's bits of seed down here. So trick number one, don't handicap yourself by aiming the lump of clay and not getting it in the middle and then trying to center it. That's not a good idea. Well, let's just try to get it in the center to start with. Okay, so when you start your wheel, you should be looking something like that. Okay, that's tip number one. Okay, so let's just talk now very quickly about posture and how to center this lump of clay. Well, you really want to have your hands like this. Now, if the wheel is going around that way, you should first have your right hand, okay, and then your left hand over like that. Okay, don't have it with your left hand like that and your right hand like that, because you see what's happening? You see what's happening to my fingers as the clay, my fingers want to dig into the clay, don't they? So have this hand, so the clay is flowing through your fingers like this, not coming into your fingers. Okay, so that's tip number two. Okay, so right hand, for us Western potters where the wheel is going around anti-clockwise, first your right hand and then your left. Okay, and I suggest that you get yourself a little bit hunched over the wheel, and you posture your elbow into your side, both of them. Okay, and then we have this like A this A posture, you see, like that. Okay, so that's the next tip. All right, now when you center, you want to have enough speed. Okay, don't try to center a lump of clay going at that speed. A little bit of speed is better, so work up a bit of speed like that. Okay, now we're going to wet your hands and wet the clay. Okay, now remember, the water is the lubrication between your hand and the clay. Just that, like in your engine of your car, the oil is the lubrication between the pistons and the you know, and the cylinder bore, and for the bearings you need that lubrication. So you need that lubrication when you're going to center. Okay, so getting into this kind of posture, okay, you're going to push down. Okay, push the clay down, all right, but also pull it towards you. Okay, so it's a downward pressure but pulling. Okay, so I'm pushing down and I'm giving it a controlled pull towards myself. And now that lump of clay is pretty much on center. All right, well, another thing that you can do to help you is to cone the clay up. All right, but we're kind of still utilizing that same idea, you see, that we are pulling, but slightly we're keeping it under control. Like this. Okay, so once you've achieved a cone like that, you may want to then push that cone down. Okay, now I call that centering down. And then I take my right finger, my right thumb I should say, and just define the base right there at the base, because that's an important place there, right there where the clay meets the wheel head, or what I call the root of the pot. You want that to be on center, because that's where your pot is going to begin, isn't it? That's where all your lifting is going to start from. It's all going to start there. So make sure there at the base is on center. Okay? So there are a few tips there to getting the clay on center. And you know, when I started my apprenticeship working for my father, you know, centering, getting the hang of centering, it takes a little bit of a knack, doesn't it? I found it didn't come immediately. You have to work at it. You have to work at it, and sometimes the clay doesn't want to go where you want it to. Here's one more tip, okay? So doing all the things I've just said to you, applying pressure downwards and towards you by gently restraining the clay, pulling it towards you. Okay, when you think that you've got the lump of clay on center, what you must do is release your hands gently, because if you're pulling like this and then you suddenly take your hands off, you see what's happened to the lump of clay? I'm pulling and now I take my hands off, you see, it's gone off. But if I pull and now release gently, you can see it stayed spinning in the still center. Okay, it's what we call the still center, and we see it there spinning now, but if you apply pressure and then quickly release the pressure, you see, that's what happens. And a lot of you maybe are trying to center and you are being a little bit heavy-handed with it. So just center, get it on center, and then release slowly. And you see, it will remain on center. Okay folks, well there's just a few tips on how to center a lump of clay. But what you must do is practice, okay? You really must do this. Practice, practice, practice. And when you've done everything else, keep practicing. See you soon. Bye-bye.